round number 2 of the iRacing IMSA Championship here on RCI TV. We're live with you from sunny Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Glad to have you with us and glad to have actual timing and scoring graphics on the screen for you for week 2 as promised all week long. Hello everybody, I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Sarah Stant with Ash Bibby behind the cameras as per usual. And it's round number 2. It was a very interesting Daytona International road course that we were at 1 week ago. And with all of the hype surrounding the series, a lot of unforced errors, we wonder, will we see something like that here today in Wisconsin? Hello, Sarah. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for welcoming me. I'm excited to be able to be here with you and have timings and know exactly who we're talking about. And I promise, chat, the discussions in Mayo will be limited this time.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Post in the comments or the chat what your favorite mayonnaise is. But moving right along, we join you with qualifying just getting underway. This series differs from a lot of our ACC races in the way that in ACC you normally get a 45-minute practice, a 15-minute qualifying session, then the race starts. It's normally an hour. That's not the way it is here for the IMSA series here at RCI TV. No. You get a 1-hour practice, a 10-minute qualifying session, as you can clearly see on the top left corner of the screen now, and then you have an 80-minute race with I think it's technically a mandatory pit stop. Nobody can make it that distance anyway, but that's what we have on tap all season. This is round number 2, and we'll see how it all shakes out. No class qualifying here. Everybody out there on the track at the same time. And if you will look at the scoring pen on the left side of the screen, you have GTP, I should say, LMP2, which takes the form of the Dallara P217, and then the IMSA class, the GT3 category cars, or I guess you could argue GTD style cars, pretty much the same thing in pink. 3 different colors, 3 different classes, and you can see them as they are on the track map on the right-hand side of the screen. Nearly every car, Sarah, on the same side of the track. You'd think they would have stacked or staggered a little bit better than that.
That's a really big struggle when it comes to multi-class racing. Trying to kind of get that staggering out is really hard when you have 3 different car classes that are varying speeds, especially through corners. And on a track like this that has several long sustained straights, it's going to be a little difficult to do that.
Well, I gotta say, we very briefly talked about mayonnaise, and the chat has already weighed in on that. It is literally, I reckon mayonnaise could divide a home in some respects or another. Well, the first qualifiers coming across the line, completing their laps. Looks like Luca Filippi has the current provisional best time in the GDP class of 47.209 to Dressel's 47.888. A couple of tenths in there between those two cars. Mikhail Sundstrom on provisional pole in LMP2, 51.734. Hyla not really close. Well, actually, no, take that back. 3 tenths off of that. I was reading that the wrong way round. And in GT3, or the IMSA GTD class, if you will, the 205.015 for Dozal in front of Janjic for pole position in that class. 4.5 minutes left to play. Good enough to get about 2 laps around this joint. It is a rather long circuit.
Absolutely. This is definitely an interesting track that a lot of people tend to have a little bit of trouble coming through, especially this bridge right here. We quite often see a lot of people try to cram right through as the track starts to narrow there. Watch that part during the race. We might see a few accidents there.
This track originally opened in, I think, 1955, I'm pretty sure, was when this track initially opened. And it's been changed a little bit over the years. Some safety measures have been put into place, extra kink here or there just to slow some of the cars down. But overall, it has retained a lot of its character. And it has certainly put on some photo finishes here over the years. Filippi reaffirms his quick time at a 47.209. Still has that gap back to Dressel. The LMP2 class looks quite small in comparison here today. At least I think they are. I think a lot of them are in the pit lane for one reason or another. The only cars, of course, showing up on the timing and scoring on the left are cars that have taken an official time. It's easy to invalidate as well with going off the racetrack. I wonder why the class struggling ever so slightly with it, as there's only about 2 or 3 of them on the circuit currently.
It's really surprising, given that this course has very little corners. These kind of cars should be excelling, and they should all be out there trying to get their best times right now.
Yeah, they really should. I mean, they're going to line up, I'm pretty sure, where they qualify. They're not going to line up with their own class. If you don't run a lap, you're going to be behind the GTD field, and that is not where you would want to be in this race. There's no advantage to starting back there, as maybe there would be in a multi-class race at Monza T1. Maybe you do that. I can't think of a real logical reason why you would do that. I actually do see 4 LMP2s out there on the field, or on the track rather, which we had 9 LMP2s complete round number 1 and get championship points. There's a 5th car that has shown up on the board. Ted Edwards on there. Peter Roche has taken the top spot in LMP2, a 51.670, just about takes care of Mikhail Sundrum, 64/100ths of a second. The difference between those cars. Lindner has taken provisional pole in GTP, a 46.930, and now mini cars finally getting some laps on the board, finally taking their positions in their classes. They're getting after it now.
Absolutely. Getting out there and making sure you get that time in is so important, and waiting till the last minute is a very strange tactic that I don't think I've ever heard of, but I'm guessing that those the LMP2s were just waiting for the field to open up a little bit so they can go out there and put in reasonable times.
Pretty well could have been. They are a little bit more spread out than they originally were. They were all essentially at the start of qualifying in the same sector. And I wonder if that played a little bit of a role. More of the LMP2s now getting laps in. Many of the cars have already returned to the pit lane. Peter Roche, provisional pole in that LMP2 class in the pit lane, but now he will no longer be provisional pole. Hyla has taken that from him, a 51.465. Meanwhile, in the GTD, everybody chasing Dozal, that 205.015, 2/10 behind him is Janjic. No real progress made there, though. A lot of cars in the 5s and the low 6s there. It wouldn't take much to change that indeed. Lindner, of course, continuing the GTP run until Christek has just taken it away. Your winner from Daytona at it again. A late qualifying effort, comes to the line with 27 seconds left, has reset quick time of 46.468 in obliterating the gap back to this man Lindner. 4.5 tenths now.
Absolutely insane. Being able to get 4.5 tenths above the second fastest driver when we're looking at just a relatively tight field behind that. We're going to see that driver just absolutely pull away during out the race.
This track does have significant portions of the track where you can draft, but even with that gap, that's a huge gap, and that will be the conclusion of qualifying here. Christek on pole in GTP. It looks like Hyla on pole in LMP2, and Dozal holds on and takes pole in GTD. Well, we have had one round of the championship. Let's show you the championship points and remind you how it all shook out at Daytona. Starting with the GTP field, it is Lucas Christek who has 68 championship points. Luca Filippi on 58. Bastian Lindner on 53. Finn Dressel on 48. Joshua Parrott, 44 points, rounding out the top 5. Ryan Leach on 40. Umas Erkma on 37 points. Lubos Lepp on 34. Eric Engman, 31. Jordan Daly, 28 points. Theobald Roscom with 25. Jaroslav Sindelar on 23. Scott William, 21. Vladimir Broshek on 19. Patrick Din rounds out the top 15 GTP cars on 17 championship points. LMP2, slightly smaller class, but still highly contested. It was very contested at Daytona, and Maciej Hyla ended up winning 65 points to their campaign effort. Christian Camphrier, who came close to winning that thing, 58 points to them. Benjamin Heilman, who's not racing this week, away on holiday with 56 points. Mikhail Sundstrom in fourth place, the man who started the Mayo conversation, I might add, 48 points for them. Nikolai Jusak with 44 points in fifth. Raphael Huell in sixth on 40. Ted Edwards on 37. Tom Bryant on 34. And Dijkstra in ninth place with 31 points. And finally, the GTD field, Pavel Dozal with 68 points. Zorian Janjic on 58. Piotr Dominicus on 53. Bart Macha on 48 championship points. Janik Ruoff, 44, rounds out the top five. Tom Watts on 40. Daniel Merchant on 37. Christopher Rowe, 34. James Mead on 31. And Ada Wolf on 28. That's your championship points. And obviously, Sarah, with just one round, it is quite close. But you see a lot of those names that are at the top of the board. They've done it here in qualifying today. They're back at the top of the board again.
Absolutely. And just to kind of bring into the thought to the people who are watching right now, a gap of 0.46 seconds like that, that means by the 22nd lap of the race, of which there should be about 48 with that time, by the 22nd lap, they will have lapped second place.
That is incredible. That's excellent math. I would have never been able to do that accurately. But moving to the different classes that we have here, you mentioned the difference in one class in particular with Christek, but we know at some point the GTPs and the LMP2s are going to catch the back of the GTD field. We saw several of the classes at Daytona get mixed up, racing each other because they were still having interclass battles very late on to the race. This track infinitely more compact, right, as opposed to Daytona. Should we consider the possibility of major incidents when the blue flags start coming out?
I think that if the GTT or GTPs and the LMP2s play their game smart and take advantage of the fact that this track has several long straights for passing, I don't think we're going to see that. I think the exception is going to be the Sargento Bridge. I think people are going to get a little bit too thirsty through there, and we're going to have moments where it tightens up a lot. You can see right there, too, at the Speedway Bridge, it gets a lot tighter very suddenly there.
Yeah, it sure does. A couple of really interesting and fascinating parts of this racetrack. Turn one, it is sort of paved and concrete. You can run off, but you lose a lot of time, and in iRacing it can bounce you around, and it's a horrible thing. You got the Moraine sweep down into turn number 5. Always that hard left-hander that's going downhill changes where your braking point normally would be, and if you're in the draft, it's even more problematic. Turn 6, not quite so much unless you're already side-by-side working on a move. Hurries downs, not really the biggest deal. The carousel, easy to overexert, go wide. The kink, so many cars slam the wall coming through the kink. We're coming through the Kettle Bottoms right now into Canada Corner, and then there's the Thunder Valley and Bill Mitchell Bend. And of course, the other big issue corner, other than Canada Corner, is really turn 14, the final turn. And that might play a factor here too, because if you go off there, you could go off for almost a literal mile. And also, if you're intermixed with traffic, could be a problem too, getting to pit lane, because after that turn 14 right-hander, you got to turn even farther to the right while other cars are still trying to go straight. I've seen it happen before. Could happen here today if your head's not screwed on straight.
Given that we saw some relatively clean, relatively fast driving last race, I have a lot of hope that these drivers have their head on straight today, especially given that we're not driving at night, we're not relying on track lights to kind of get an idea. All right, there goes the safety car. Let's see the start of this race.
Chris Tech and Lindner are going to pick up exactly where they left off 1 week ago in Daytona. Eager cars into the field, and a couple of them get nearly 3 wide before they realize they have to go back single file. In the end, it's an excellent start for Chris Tech. In the Acura out in front, that GTP gets going, and they are single file. Dressel, Lindner, and Filippi all fighting for position, but they finally get single file. In the background, one of the cars goes completely around. I believe that's Lepp in the Cadillac, who's been spun off into the nothing. I think Canfrier has also been spun off in the LMP2 class into turn 1. They'll go all the way to the back. That's P7 from them. Peter Roche holds on to the lead in LMP2. Dozal does the same in the GTD field. One of the, I think that's the HWT car, getting all sorts of sideways. And oh yeah, just sort of a bottleneck there and a disagreement over space. And that ended with Leap going all the way to the bottom. And now something has happened to Leach in the 711 Cadillac as they've gone back. Leap has retired from the race. I think we're seeing that a lot of cars have retired, but I highly doubt that that is fully the case. Another car off here, that was Leach, who we previously said had gone off. I don't know if what I'm seeing is right, Sarah. I'm seeing a lot of DNFs here in the GTD field. That may be correct. Otherwise, we'll have to play it by ear, see what happened there. Leap definitely, I think, DNF'd, but that was after contact. I can't imagine that many of the GTD field had an issue into turn 1 that caused that much carnage.
I can't imagine that either, but we'll have to wait for the first lap to finish and get a general idea. Unless we can get some eyes on those cars, we won't know.
I wonder if maybe they're going to be doing a restart or something. The cars have returned to the pit lane. Otherwise, I have no understanding of what could have possibly happened. The pit lane clean, of course, no cars sitting in there. Nope, it's all reset. We're all good. Just a little glitch in the system. And here we are back on the race. Things sorting themselves out here early in the race. And now it looks like it would appear as if the GTP field has had an issue, but they have not. All the cars are still going around, just an electronic gremlin that will eventually sort itself out. I can promise you that. But the race does go on. Leach, I don't believe, is leading the race. Chris Tech leading in GTP. Roche and Dozal, your leaders in their respective categories, as they've all started to fan out here just a little bit.
Now that the cars are starting to open up a little bit, get a little bit more space between them, we're probably not going to see as many issues with this track. There's just too many points on this track where it's real easy to pass and really kind of pull away. As we can see right here, we have a GT3 car pulling past the GT3 field and just absolutely sliding past. And actually, pardon me, I think they're GTDs in this one. My apologies.
They're GT3 cars. There's some slight modification that takes them out of GT3 regs and makes them a GTD car for the American Road Racing Series. But realistically, it's a GT3 car with a couple of maybe tangible bits bolted off or bolted on or taken off of the car. Besides that, not a big deal. As Chris Tech continues to lead, now has a 3-second on Dressel, Lindner, Sindelar, and Filippi, the top 5 in the GTP category. That's how they've shaken out. And we will see if they continue. I believe the number 19 of Lepp has actually DNF'd. You're seeing DNFs appear on the board that aren't actually occurring. Lepp might have a DNF, or they are near the back of the field, though their timing looks a bit wonky to me, so maybe they have done. We'll keep you abreast of that. Certainly Lepp was involved in a turn 1 incident that saw them get into the wall. They were arguing over space, and it didn't quite go correctly. This is Chris Tech's number 222 Acura, currently in front of the GTP field. We're making our way through the hurry downs and over to the carousel. Ooh, a little bit off the racetrack there. That's going to be a common occurrence. You're going to see that throughout this entire race. And one thing you certainly have to worry about with that is getting a little bit too wide, especially in a very torquey automobile. It can cause issue. I saw Hyla in the 213 of the LMP class. They flashed up as they were stopped on the racetrack for a moment, but they definitely got back going in a decent enough fashion. Kevin Boss's number lit up as well in GTD, but has since recovered. I wonder if maybe iRacing's being a little proactive with its flags, and if you go off a little bit, it's throwing up one of those local yellows, because that is nearly impossible, Sarah, for somebody to have an accident that's that quick and recovers. So I wonder if maybe they're dipping tires off and it's causing those yellows.
That's the only thing that I can think of. At this point, we are just hoping that all these drivers are not repeatedly DNFing and then somehow returning to reality.
It's just one of those things we have to deal with. What's happening is the software is losing the cars out there on the racetrack. I've seen this before in other sims as well, where for whatever reason they lose the car, and whenever they hit a timing interval, it updates, but because certain cars are hitting them at certain intervals and others are hitting at others, it's causing some of the cars to look like they are not racing anymore. That is not the case here today. None of these cars, as far as I know, are actually DNF'd. In fact, I've just seen Leap has reappeared on the screen. That car has not retired, the number 18. It shows an 8th. It's actually probably in 10th place right now, as we saw it get through some of the GTD traffic. That car is not retired. This Jordan Daly, now this is interesting. Jordan Daly right behind teammate Billy Octane. You can tell they're teammates in the Porsches because of the same livery, of course. They're both trying to chase down Carroll for 7.
Either they have matching liveries or they're teammates. Pretty sure they're teammates. I got to agree with you on that one. That or they're really big fan of the vaporwave aesthetic. Looks like they're really trying to kind of maximize fuel, staying behind in the draft with the car ahead of them, kind of maximize that ability to continue to push for as long as they can and avoid having to pit early.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we'll see how this continues to shake out. You can use, if you have a teammate, maybe use them as a pick. Daly and Octane working together, and here goes Octane on Carroll, and it's that simple. Down into turn 1, all Octane's got to do is not overdrive it, and he doesn't, down into 1 and 2. And does he hold up Carroll significantly for Daly to get through into turn 3? I think he might have done. They're going to be side by side going down the Maureen sweep. And certainly here you're going to help your teammate draft, and in fact he does. He switches all the way back to the right, which is what you would do anyway for turn number 5, but the added benefit of maybe a little bit of a draft, but it hasn't quite worked out here. The BMW of Carroll just able to pull back in front. It's an over-under move from Daly. Daly continuing to contest this up into 6 and 7. He might just about get it, and he has done before he gets the 7 in the downs. He has made the pass. That is a double overtake from the teammates. That's well done by all drivers. An account 7th and 8th place changing hands, and the only real sad part about that, Carroll losing out 2 spots in a couple of turns now. Not even 10 minutes gone in this race, and some of the classes are coming back together. Some of them are splitting apart. Nobody touching Chris Tech up in front. That Acura is 8.3 seconds in front of Dressel's Cadillac. That is just an incredible gap, and part of that's down to this. In fact, Zindelar on Dressel coming across the start-finish line here has got it done. Put Zindelar up into P2 in the Porsche, and that is job done. That would explain some of the time lost, but look at this. Behind Dressel, Lindner, Filippi, all there in a line. All these cars in it for P2 right now.
An absolute train forming behind them right now. Blow the whistle. They are hoping to get past this GTD and making sure they can try to limit the amount of time lost to that car. All of them seem to make it past nice and clean, taking advantage. Ooh, I take that back.
Yeah, that is very interesting. That it's an unenviable position for Kevin Boss, who I believe that was just sort of existing on the racetrack, you get caught by a pack of cars fighting for meaningful positions in class. You're just trying not to do anything wrong. You're trying to be as predictable as possible, and luckily nothing there. But that is a feeling. It's a helpless feeling if you're GTD. I've done that myself as well with faster class cars, and it feels like they're going a million miles an hour, and it's such a hectic moment. But well done, well taken by all involved. Billy Octane, it looks like they're down a spot or two, as Billy Octane had an incident. I worry that they may have done. But here is the leader in GTD, Dozalt, or Dozout if you prefer. My apologies if I've gotten that incorrect. Leading the way in GTD has a 3.3 second lead on Roof. Janjic in third, Mead in fourth. That'd be a good rebound race for Mead in that Mercedes. Daniel Merchant in the Audi rounds out the top five. All these cars sort of away from each other except Roof and Janjic, who are somewhat close to each other. And then you have Macha and Gutman, who are quite close as well. And Tom Watson, it appears Kevin Boss are now quite close. That's because some of the field are making the pass, and Tom Watson's been spun. The GTP field making their way through. A little bit of door-to-door contact there. And that has spun Tom Watts around.
It's just a reminder that when you're the faster car, you really got to be more careful around these GTDs. These cars do not have the aero, they do not have the corner that the LMP2s and GTPs have. It's your job as the faster car to go around the other car, even if it means you're losing time. You don't have the right to the line. You don't have the right to go through the slower car.
Yeah, it's so different than Daytona, where if you couldn't get them in the infield in the horseshoe section, you could just wait till you get to the oval banking and maybe the back straight as well, and just take them there, and you had 3 or 4 lanes to deal with. We saw many 3 and 3 wide opportunities where nothing happened in that situation. That's not the same here at Road America. It looks quite wide on camera, but the corners are not wide in the slightest, and especially the way the track flows, left, right, it's not advantageous to overtaking, and if you get it minutely incorrect, millimeters incorrect, it can all go wrong. And usually the slower traffic, I feel like, often pays the biggest bill, except in the instance where a faster car clears themselves and spins themselves out. But that's not what happened there with Tom Watts. That was just side by side with 2 different classes. One's trying to get a move on. Tom Watts didn't do anything wrong in that instance either.
And this happens, like, don't think that this is something that only happens in sim racing for people who are watching from home. This stuff happens in real life too. A great example is Sebring, I think it was 2022. We saw a LMP2 car absolutely obliterate a Porsche on that one, and then end its own race doing that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It can happen in an instant. You're going fine, the race is going well, and it doesn't even have to be a pack of cars like that. Like the instance you just mentioned, Sarah, it can be one specific car, and it can all go completely wrong. Folks, we're going to try and fix the electronic gremlin that we have. We're not going to go anywhere. We will be right back, however, and see if we can't rectify that. We're going to take you to the Be Right back screen. Don't go anywhere. We'll be live back here at Road America for round 2 of the IMSA Road Racing Series here on RCI TV. And we're right back here at Road America. The electric gremlins that we've had for the past 2 weeks, we think we finally vanquished them. That's okay. One of us rolled a nat 20, and all of a sudden turned the tide of the fight. So we are all good. You'll notice no more cars are showing that they are DNF'd. This is still within the first 20 minutes of the race. All these cars still have a pit stop left to give. Peter Roche leads in LMP2. Dozal leads in the GTD class. Roof is up in P2. Jean-Jacques Meade and Merchant still the top 5 there, though Merchant is right behind Meade for that 4th place position. It is a massive gap, Sarah. 17, call it 18 seconds. Chris Tech to Sindelar. Oh, who's just been repassed. They're in a fight is Sindelar and Dressel, but even without the fight, 18 seconds is a huge gap.
And how many laps are we into the race now?
We're less than 20 minutes worth, right? And they're doing 148, so about 10 or so.
We're right on pace for the exact distance that I mentioned.
Well, that is why you're the expert, and that's why I have you. Because the Lord knows I wouldn't be able to do that. I think something happened to Lindner just now, the 47 Porsche in GTP. That car was denoted as yellow and fell down the field a bit. And unless that was just the graphics repositioning that car. But either way, they're still in the race, and they're up to pace now. Lep did not DNF after the turn 1 incident. They are moving around. Oh, yes, that was Lindner. I was right. That was an incident coming through. I think that was... Where was that? Oh, that was coming through 5, 6, and 7, actually. Very strange indeed there. But Lindner is able to continue along. Billy Octane, who we saw earlier, had an incident. Remember, they were up in 7th place just a little bit ago, and now they're down in 10th place after they're on track, or they're off track, I should say. Ryan Leach is now in 7th place. Jordan Daly here, the dark blue and the light blue cars, fighting over that position of 7.
And one of the things that I love to share with people, love to tell people who've never driven these kind of cars before, is these cars are very, very similar to open wheel racing. When you're in them, throttle management is so important. It's next to impossible to go through a corner without maintaining throttle in some way, shape, or form, or the car just wants to absolutely rotate in on itself. It can be an extremely jarring experience to drivers who are maybe used to letting off the throttle in GT3 cars and going through a corner. These things do not give you that option. And if you have a little lapse of memory or a little lapse of moment there, you get basically like we just saw with, I think it was it Octane that just went off the track?
Well, Octane did earlier, but we were watching Lindner go
Lindner, that's it. Sorry, I mixed the two up. Both Porsches, my apologies.
Oh, it's going to be an accident right here.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's a big off right there. And now Lindner has had an additional incident. That's such a dangerous part of the racetrack through the kink to try and go too wide. And it's all gone wrong for Lindner again.
Looks like Lindner's still on the track, which is absolutely shocking, honestly, with that spin and that hit against the wall. It looks like their car managed to minimize the damage, and we'll see what they do here.
Yeah, that's a good point. These concrete confines here in Wisconsin are not the most welcoming sight. You normally see crashes like that result in terminal damage, but we've seen a couple of offs, a couple of spins today, and some of them at quite a pace, but none of them have approached retirement territory. So that's actually quite incredible. That's very uncommon for this particular racetrack. 20 seconds to gap in GTP. Peter Roche enjoys a 13.5-second gap on Hyla in the LMP2 class. Dozal and Ruth are separated by 6.5 seconds. Daniel Merchant has fallen off the back of Meade just a little bit as well. Saw some Meade fans in chat, you'll be happy to know that fourth place in that Mercedes, quite safe for the moment for the number 29. Tom Bryant in the HWT Delara getting hounded by Dijkstra. Dijkstra pulling out to the left here, coming down the sweep, and he's going to be able to get it done. I think Tom Bryant, that 244 HWT machine, was more than happy just to allow him, once he got there, got in the draft, and got beside him, just allow him to go. Maybe a smart decision on Tom Bryant's part. Big shout out to Tom Bryant for helping us put on these iRacing events, not only for the drivers, but for us here in the booth as well. It's been super helpful to us to get up and running here on RCI TV in the iRacing space. So cheers to you, Tom.
Cheers to you, Tom.
And don't sell Sarah Stantz short. She's actually the one who solved our DNF problem just a moment ago as well. So appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I'm just used to fixing things that are broken.
Oh my goodness. You are, you can do math, you can fix things, you like mayonnaise. You might be the perfect human being.
I actually don't like any mayonnaise besides QP.
It still counts. Inside the top 10 and just barely inside the top 10. Tom Watts, remember, went for a wild ride whenever they were being lapped by the GTP class. That dropped them all the way down to 10th place. Ada Wolf now in 9th. Kevin Boss, though, closing in a bit. Kevin Boss had their issues. We didn't quite see what happened to Boss in the number 31 wheelie slow Porsche. But something happened, and they were almost immediately at the back of the field, but that gap has closed considerably. 10.5 seconds thereabout, now a little bit more than that to Tom Watts. A fight for just inside the P10 class, or P10 classification, I should say. Do bear in mind, all cars that finish the race here today will get championship points based on the turnout. There is a cutoff for points, of course, but no class here under threat of violating that for today's race. Off the track here, that was Kevin Boss, so that explains why they lost a little bit of time. Oh no, something more significant here.
Did he blow his engine, maybe?
Oh, maybe he's back again, I think. Or is this? Yeah, something interesting going on with the iRacing software there, because we clearly saw that car blink out of existence. It's still on the racetrack. I was on Sarah's train of thought there. I thought that that was a blown engine, but the car's still going around the racetrack. It certainly looked like it just pulled over and stopped, though.
That was very strange. The only thing I could think of, I thought at first maybe it was a return to garage, but getting that fast back out on the track, it's hard to tell. Without knowing what lap they're on compared to the other drivers, I have no clue. But it seems they're only 11 seconds behind Tom Watts, so I don't think they returned to garage.
No, he's still in the lead lap. That didn't, what we saw with that car stopping, that did not happen. That was an internet connectivity issue of some variety. We're used to seeing cars blink in and out of existence, and he did there at the end, but it rolled to a stop before that happened. Just lost synchronization. It's back now. He was 10.5 seconds behind when we saw that. He is losing time to Tom Watts, but certainly would have lost more than 2 seconds stopping. So some kind of internet hiccup right there for Kevin Boss as they continue to pound round. Camfrier in LMP2 has just done their quickest lap of the race, and just in time. The quickest lap in that class overall is a 53.308. Camfrier in third place, who's only less than 2 seconds behind Hyla for second. A 53.434. That's 4/10 better than the quickest lap by the 2:13 of Hyla. So that could end up being a battle at some point now that Camfrier has found the pace.
It was exciting when drivers started to find their pace partially into the race and start to turn these kind of battles that seem a little one-sided into maybe something a little bit more fun.
You never know where you're going to find yourself in a race like this. You all set off around vaguely at the same time. but you never can be sure. That's why we love racing. There is no script here, and it makes it look like it's scripted, but it isn't a lot of the time. Now, that's good driving there, realizing, that the faster class was coming. They would have been blue flagged, of course, by the marshals and in the car. The cars have a system to let you know when there's faster traffic approaching. But this is a cat and mouse game between Bart Macha in the number 5 Ferrari and Frederick Gutman in the BMW. Now, this is a scary moment for, I believe that's Jordan Daly trying to make their way through, having to weave mobile chicane style around this battle for 6th.
That was absolutely insane. Watching that Ferrari go wide for a second there while the other cars decided it was going to go the same direction. We almost had an accident there, but some skillful driving. Everybody kept it out of each other's cars, and the race goes on.
Some more good wishes from chat. We are reading chat as we always do here on RCI TV, and Andy is cheering on some of his teammates' friends potentially there. And Newser has joined us to tell us that he has made the incident here. That's Ted Edwards' car. The long old way down into turn number 5. Sarah, what do you see here?
It looks like, I guess it was just a bit of a slide heading into the turn there. I mean, besides that, it didn't look like that was anything that bad. Looks like he's going to try to get back on pace and hopefully pull himself back up to Sunshine.
Threw me for a loop right there. We saw him have an incident in the corner, and then we went back to live. He was back in the same corner again, and so yeah, you just slid out there, easy to do, and certainly happened for them. Camfrier has just had a little bit of a mini incident as well. I think they've done a little bit of off-roading, as they've lost 2 to 3 tenths there, but nothing major. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen where their positional indicator will light up yellow if they're experiencing an incident. Some of the drivers are flashing, meaning that they are driving off the racetrack, but they're not losing control of the car. It's just that they're exiting the track, and iRacing is assessing, like that for instance, iRacing is assessing that, that's a yellow flag, and it is momentarily, but the car is actually not in any more drama other than the fact that it's becoming a quite expensive tractor.
It's quite fitting given the history of a lot of these Italian sports cars beginning as tractor companies.
Wow. All right. Well, I wasn't going to say that, but actually, some of these prototypes might actually be cheaper than buying a tractor. I know certain LMPs are actually cheaper than a tractor. A really good tractor, $450,000 and up, really, for a really good one. Oh, this is a tight moment here. So yeah, some of these LMPs might actually be a bit cheaper than that.
And probably don't rely on you getting cracked Ukrainian firmware to actually have control over repairs of the vehicle.
Wow. Well, there goes our John Deere sponsorship. Moving right along, Chris Tech continues to lead 26 seconds out in front. Nobody catching them. Sarah, you've surely been in this situation at some point in your racing career. You're out there by a mile, whatever it is, whyever it is, you're untouchable. Do you start to worry at that point because you're so good, the only thing that can stop you is you, and that's the scariest thing?
I mean, that's the kind of headspace you really have to avoid. You have to treat every battle, every corner, like somebody's behind you, willing to take that position away. Which also means you also have to take things a lot more careful, too. One of the things is we get a little greedy, we pull away, you have maybe 20 seconds of the car behind you. That 20 seconds vanishes really fast if you rotate the car. You're going to find yourself, that gap that felt like you were invincible, like you had all the track behind you, it's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, that's the worrying part. 26 seconds is an age, but it's not if you turn the car around backwards. Hyla and Camphor have caught each other, or Camphor has caught Hyla here for P2 again, and they are nose to tail thereabout. Some of the GTD field in front of them as well, as they will have to contest, and they will continue to contest for P2. A similar situation in that P2 class Peter Roche enjoys a 20-second lead. No threat from these cars here, and that'll continue to be the case if these two continue fighting, and they will do. Camfrey trying to gain back positions and points in the championship. Iowa trying to keep them, of course. Meanwhile, battle for fifth here.
Looks like they're really kind of trying to find an opening that, I believe it's the Cadillac. Yeah, the Cadillac looking for the opening there on the BMW ahead of them. The BMW is considered one of the slower of the options when it comes to GTPs, but all of them are viable in the right hands.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, we've got Acura, Porsche, Cadillac, BMW inside the top 5. It doesn't get any better than that. That's parity to the very best. And I think we actually do have a DNF. Broshek in the 14 Porsche is 2 laps down. I don't think that's a graphical bug. I think that's legitimately a DNF. In fact, they've gone 3 laps under now. So we have lost a car in today's race. It's the number 14 of Broshek. And that happened semi-recently, as they are 3 laps down. I didn't see them flash up as an incident. Doesn't mean there wasn't one, but leads me to believe maybe that there was a mechanical reason why they have to retire that car.
It's always a shame when you see a driver unable to finish a race, but let's hope that Broshek comes back next race with that same fire and is able to compete for some points.
Yeah, closing down the garage door, calling it a day. Never something that you want to have happen. It's never something that you want to have to deal with, but it is, unfortunately, the sad reality. Some days, maybe you hit the wall, maybe you damage the car in some way. I've seen it, and it's just over before it really begins. Speaking of which, still got more than 46 minutes here of racing. A 60-minute race, these events. These are 80-minute races, giving the sort of illusion of a longer endurance race. And if you're used to racing 60 minutes, Sarah, that extra 20 minutes, you feel it at the end.
Absolutely. People, especially the drivers who are using direct drive wheels, the amount of fatigue you start to feel after that extra 20 minutes is definitely real. I race in VR myself, and combining a direct drive wheel with VR, you get very warm and you get very sore very fast.
You really do. VR, of course, an option in iRacing, and it's an option that many iRacers use, several in this race, I would imagine, on virtual reality. iRacing sort of built in a way to facilitate that. It's not in some instances, the most graphically demanding sim, but it has the fidelity, and it's just easy to get it to work with as well. A favorite of many. So as these drivers continue to race each other over fifth, Gutman has the spot in the BMW. Now Macha trying to retake it in the Ferrari. He's not lost him, has Gutman, but he is staying out in front, though Macha did run the quickest lap of his race the last time through, a 2:07.4, but that ever so slightly pales in comparison to Gutman's 2:04.17, a mere 1/100th of a difference there. Ted Edwards in the LMP2 class also ran his quickest lap a lap ago, but has since crossed the line.
Looks like Jordan Daly right now is trying to look for an opening on Leach ahead of him. It's only 0.5 seconds ahead to the car there. Oh my god, my brain. It's only 0.5 seconds to the car ahead here, and coming down the straight, he's hoping to probably get a little bit in that draft and find a way around, maybe in this corner. He might just hang back, try to figure out, okay, how do I get past this car? How do I start to be able to take on that BMW and continue to climb up the rank?
This is the thing about Daly. He's a competitor. He's been driving these GTP cars very frequently as of late, and he's gotten the hang of it. And Daly's the kind of driver in iRacing. It's a little bit different than him in ACC. I've noticed Daly's ability in iRacing is no matter where he starts, whether that be mid-pack like he did today, he just gets better as the race goes on. It's like he's constantly learning. Obviously, Road America, not a racetrack that he will have raced at a whole lot in his sim racing career, so you got to get acclimated to that, to how the car is gonna drive, to what it feels like on older tires, the temperatures, etc. of the day. All that's important, and also how the other competitors are racing as well. So all those things, I think, feed into daily, just getting better as the day goes on. But it's a three-way battle for fourth up there with Carroll, Daly, and Leach. In fact, Daly, I think, just made the pass up into P5 as we watch the leader navigate some of the lap traffic. And there it is, the confirmation on the screen. Jordan Daly is by Ryan Leach for 5th place.
Now he has the slightly more difficult pass against his BMW that's obviously holding up the track a little bit here. I think Daly's going to pass him soon. But after that, he's got a 27.6 second gap past that BMW if he wants to get to the podium today. I really hope to see that if he can, he will manage a absolute victory drive to do that.
Well, it's gone from bad to worse for Wheelie Slow's Kevin Boss. They've just had an additional incident, this time in Canada Corner. That's corner number 12. They've kept the car going, of course. I think Newser might be slightly upset at Kevin Boss, who is pictured here in the Porsche, because ruining that fantastic livery that Newser made, and was kind enough to let us know. Yeah, he just goes off there. I think he may have been scared off a little bit by the lap traffic, or by the faster traffic, rather.
Sometimes, you know, you get these drivers with these beautiful liveries, and they forget that this isn't dirt. This is, in fact, road racing. Try to keep it on the track, gentlemen and ladies.
iRacing does have dirt racing, but this isn't it. It's supposed to keep it on the black stuff, in between the white lines preferably, but not always the easiest thing to do. Daniel Merchant is in and out of this race. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I think Merchant actually just did their stop. I think there's nothing utterly strange about that, but they have pitted. They're among the first cars to pit. I saw Dressel in the GTP group. They pitted a lap ago. They're down and gone. Lindner is in and exiting pit road currently. Luca Filippi is going to pit out of P3 overall. Peter Roche has surrendered the lead in LMP2. Camphrier has joined Roche in that category in the pit lane. Hyla has gone through to the lead. And those are all of the pitters. Only the one so far in the GTD crowd. Oh, scary moments here. Always more difficult going around the outside, but hey, you got to take what you can get.
Absolutely. Oh, we have another person heading in for the pits here. I think at this point we're going to start to see cars that maybe had a little bit of door rubbing, a little bit more kind of off-road adventures, starting to pit a little bit early, get those tires, get that extra bit of fuel, and head back out there, because holding out when you have that damage just isn't worth the time.
Now, there is a required pit stop, but as far as I remember from a week ago, there are no requirements. You just got to stop. But that's the tricky part. You have to do something because you can't make it on fuel. And at some point, you have to make a judgment call on if you can finish an 80-minute race on your Michelin tires. And if you can't do that, then that, again, that is a further loss in the pit lane. We saw everything, the entire gamut, 1 week ago. We saw tires change on some cars. I talked to some of those drivers. They weren't too pleased with that. They didn't think that that was the strategy at Daytona. We saw splash and goes from some of the cars that were a little bit more economical than others, and that sort of thing. Strategy was a little bit all over the place, and we've seen more concise strategy here today as Luca Filippi coming out of the pit lane, Leach doing the same in the top class, Tom Bryant in this time in LMP2, Roche and Camphrier now leaving, and Tom Watts, of course, who we saw a moment ago duck down pit lane. I mentioned earlier how it can sometimes be scary off that turn 14 final turn, especially in multi-class racing, and that was kind of the point. Look at this, literal mobile chicane.
That was a absolutely very close moment there. The Tinder car almost ending somebody else's race. Thankfully, we just saw some mobile chicane action, and everybody lives to tell the story another day. Remember, drivers, pay attention to those side mirrors.
That was Luca Filippi, who had just exited the pit lane. He left and right swiped on that one. I would like to apologize for myself. I couldn't help it. There's a tender car on the track. What did you expect me to do? But Luca Filippi swiping every which way there and was able to match with a drama-free couple of passes. Sarah, do you regret joining me on this show?
Absolutely never. I always enjoy
appreciate
getting a
the
chance to
confidence.
get in the booth with you, Jesse. I think that it's a great time. And I thought I'd bring up for just a moment, for people maybe this is your first time watching an iRacing broadcast, if you see a driver blink out for a second and then reappear, that is just the way that iRacing handles packet loss. They just estimate where you are, but as part of that, you ghost for that time, so we don't get an incident like we do in ACC, where a car will start teleporting around and sending people to the shadow realm.
That's true. If you are having packet loss, it's not a death sentence in iRacing. iRacing's kind of more accommodating. It'll try to let your internet connection sort itself out and reconnect. That's scary sometimes for other drivers. Of course, we've seen horror stories with it, but in a way, it's kind of comforting knowing that if you just have momentary packet loss, you're not going to immediately be out of the race. And good and bad, pros and cons with everything. But Sarah's quite correct. If you see that happening, it's not on our end. That's just the way iRacing mitigates the connection dropping for a moment. More than half of the GTP field have completed their stop. The leader, the top two anyway, have not. Chris Tech and Sindelar have not completed their stop. Neither has Billy Octane. You'll now see the cars that have pitted and have completed their outlap have a little yellow L number beside them. Oh, was there an incident here? Certainly was smoke there. Certainly down the kettle bottoms. Looks like Ada Wolf may have had a spin, but they've recovered. And here it is. Ooh, what happened there, Sarah?
It looks like as they were coming around the corner, they just initiated a bit too much rotation and they were just not able to control it. But it looks like they did an amazing job recovering, and it looks like it only maybe scraped the nose. So hopefully if they haven't pitted yet already, that they'll be able to just get in, do a quick repair, and head back out. They might not even need the repair.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, that continues the streak that we've had with cars, especially in the kettle bottoms area, which we are right now, following Dozal. Usually, a crash here is terminal. It wasn't here today, so hopefully that trend will continue. These tracks typically chew up and spit out race cars. We've seen a couple of major issues, but nothing completely terminal, at least that we are aware of. A couple of cars there into the pit lane. Hyla and Dijkstra into the pit lane for LMP2. That will all but complete the pit cycle there. Remember, Peter Roche was in on lap number 20 several laps ago. Currently in third, but we suspect they will cycle back through as long as that was a normal stop. It looked normal to me on the monitor, so I don't expect them to not be leading. In fact, there they are as they cross the timing stripe. Roche back up to P1. Camprier released back into the field. The question was, for me, how close were they going to be? Remember, they were racing some other cars inside the top 5 in their class. That looks like that's cooled off for a moment. Chris Tech has not done their stop as of yet, but Sindelar has done. Chris Tech's the only car in GTP who hasn't pitted.
Looks like they're trying to maximize the amount of times that they can stay out there. Remember, these cars have regenerative braking, which means that they're going to be able to get a little bit farther on that tank of gas than your average car. If they can try to maximize that, he might be able to close a little bit of that time that he lost. And I've also been told to announce the winner of the poll, and the winner of the poll is no to Hellman's. 57-43. Sorry, QP gang,
No.
rise up.
No, I refuse to accept the legitimacy of that poll. That poll was tied for 40 minutes here, and only just when it was swung by an influencer, no less, outside our normal viewership, did he decide to close that poll. I'm not having it. It's not going to work. That vote is null and void, Ash. Good luck next time. I'm an American. I know all about how elections should work. So beyond that, I refuse to accept that poll. That was 50% for an age, which is fair enough. I feel like that is the basis of mayonnaise is you either like it or you don't, and that's, hey, takes all kinds. Some people like it, some people don't. Hey, some people think Miracle Whip's mayo. Why are we back on this subject? Chris Tech into the pit lane in the GTP category. That completes the pit cycle for LMP, or not LMP, GTP. LMP2 has also completed their stop with Hyla and Dijkstra on an out lap. Roche and Camfrier are now 1 and 2. So that was a really good stop for Camfrier, who is now up into P2. And not really a big challenge. Hyla is 7.4 behind. Hyla and Dijkstra still together for that spot in P3. Roof now leads in the GTD category, but several of those cars have yet to pit. Gutman, in fact, just coming down the lane now.
It's surprising to see that a lot of these GTD cars are really choosing to wait. I mean, if they can, I guess the tire compound for the GTD is just something that can handle up to 80 minutes of racing, because at this point, I don't know. I feel like your best chance is to get in there with everybody else and try to get out.
Yeah, I assume, just like real life, the compound that the 3 categories are on is slightly different. In some ways, more suited to the car's needs, but I'm pretty sure every car here feasibly could do a double stint on the tires if they really wanted to. Obviously, that would be slower to do that. Getting new tires would mean that you would get your grip and your speed back. Double stinting would not help you as far as pace is concerned, but it may save you just enough time that it is advantageous, especially considering this is only an 80-minute race. Had it been a 1 hour, 40-minute race, then you could probably make the opposite argument of taking tires would almost certainly be advantageous if you wanted to do that. But you can, in real life anyway, in IMSA, you can double stint these tires somewhat easily, though there's no pace in them for that second stint. And that's when the trouble comes in. We saw that at Daytona a week ago as well. Late in the race, cars started getting loose, started getting sideways and spinning. We're getting to that point now with 31 minutes to go. Hopefully that doesn't happen here today, but this track also quite abrasive.
Absolutely. When we're looking at these kind of cars, it's important to remember too that the iRacing tire model is very, very sticky, but very prone to losses of lateral grip. So if you're putting a lot of pressure on the car, like right here, a perfect example of loss of lateral grip. The car's coming in, it sticks until it doesn't.
That's a very well put part of the puzzle there. It's great right up until the point where it isn't anymore, and that's what can completely take you unawares and by surprise. We haven't seen too much spinning in the grass. I would have expected to see quite a bit more than that than we have seen here today, but we have not. I can't tell if Roof is coming to pit lane or has had an incident with Hyla. I worry that the LMP2 car of Hyla, the 213, and the then leader of GTD, Roof, have had an incident together as both cars have rejoined the racetrack. This is Roof's car, and oh my goodness, just sliding in the DMs, huh?
It's just a reminder that when you're coming into a corner and you're the faster, more grippy car, that other car is not going to change its line. You need to understand that these GTDs, they set in a line, they start going, they can't rapidly change. It's so important to just be careful. Take an extra second of your time and get through cleanly, and don't sabotage your own race.
Yeah, that's I was going to say the first, but that's not correct, is it? That's the second incident of interclass incident, probably the more egregious of the two, I think we'll all agree. And just looks like the LMP2 car went in there, thought they were going to make the pass quite late, got there, arrived to the scene halfway through the corner, and that will incredibly frustrate this driver, the 297 Porsche with Roof behind the wheel. That was not what they had in mind, and they will bring that car in. The good news is they still have a pit stop to give anyway. The bad news is that this will rather destroy what their pit strategy might have been. Keep in mind, they're one of the few cars that have not completed their mandatory trip down pit lane today. And I certainly feel like maybe they'll repair damage on that for the latter part of the race because they've already lost so much time being spun out like that. Luckily, it wasn't humongous contact, but the tires will be damaged, perhaps change them as well. And now, with that said, that leaves 4 cars, all in the GTD class, who have not pitted, leading Janjic and Mead and Rowe. All 3 of those cars not pitted.
Absolute surprise for sure. We should be interesting.
Oh,
we
Dressel!
just have, what a catch though. It looks like he's going to get back on the track and be able to push forward here. Maybe only losing a position. Wow. That almost ended incredibly poorly. And this is what we're talking about. When it comes to that sort of grip, these cars are grinding those tires every time they go through. They don't have the ability to let up on their throttle. And because of that, these cars are constantly having those wheels turn when they go through the corner. They are taking untold amounts of damage to that rubber. And he just added some more.
Yeah, he really did, didn't he, there? That was not great. You could tell this car, maybe he's a little bit frustrated. Maybe he's realized the tires are giving up. It's hard to pit out of 4th place after you've already pitted. You've sort of come to a strategy decision. Doesn't look like Dressel was coming to pit lane that time through, but a couple of incidents there that time in Canada corner as well. You can see the black mark he laid trying to get out of that corner. The tires are already hot, messed up, and it's just a bad situation. But he will continue along in 4th place. He has about 21 second gap back to Lindner. And I reckon that's why he's not coming in. He can maintain that gap, and even if he's slower with 26 minutes, hopefully they're able to just edge out the Porsche GTP behind them and keep that Cadillac in 4th place. Of course, good points there inside the top 5. You get points regardless, but by good points, I mean you're getting handfuls of points that could be major as this season goes on. It's a long season, by the way, folks. We've got 7 or 8 races on tap for the iRacing Road Race IMSA series. This, of course, only round number 2.
Remember, it's anybody's thing there. Christek may be far ahead, but you never know. A driver sometimes has to take a break from a race. Maybe they get sick. Who knows? Stick with it. Even if you're 2nd or 3rd, you never know what's going to happen. These 2 drivers are really, really going back and forth. I thought we were going to see some door-to-door action there, but it looks like they're just going to... Whoa! Holy Hannah. Look at that. Just itching to try and find an opening. There's the opening. Is he going to go for it? There is just not enough room for that BMW to get through. Jordan Daly in the Porsche is just absolutely fighting for that position, keeping control, keeping Carroll behind him, finding just no gap available for that BMW to pass.
That pass was well in the making, and finally, with 25.5 minutes to go, it's done, but it wasn't easy. Carroll fought him for it. He did it. He did it very nicely. No fender contact, a couple of over-under moves, some gamesmanship by Daly, and Carroll was playing in the mirrors behind them as well. But just a well-done, well-orchestrated battle there, side-by-side for many corners. That's exactly how you draw it up, and that's brought the 197 car up into 6th place. Remember, Daly was 7th earlier on, racing with his teammate, Billy Octane, who had an incident, and that has left this car, the leading Triple R car, the Triple R Porsche, in 6th for the time being. But Carroll has not given up. That BMW clearly has some horsepower down the straight, and that draft helping certainly as well. These 2 cars still together. This fight for 6th not over yet.
Remember, there's a lot of fine control and the ability to use that hybrid as well, too. So what we might be seeing when these drivers kind of resist that takeover, they might be burning through their hybrid engine. And if they burn through that before they can recharge it again, it's going to be a long time before they get enough battery power to use it in a pinch. So keep a close eye on these cars, and definitely keep a close eye on that mayonnaise car ahead of them, because we know Chat loves mayonnaise.
Oh, boy. Well, statistically, half of them do. Jordan, you have a good point. I want to touch on that. We haven't actually talked about this. The LMP2s and the GTD cars are pretty standard cars. Some of them have electronic aids, some of them don't. We could get into that as well, but that's standard fare These GTP cars, of course, they do have a hybrid system that is implemented in iRacing, and it is something you have to manage in the race. You have several different settings, several different modes for them as well, and you can, like Sarah said, deplete that system, and it leaves you sort of to the wolves a little bit if you don't have anything leaving some of these corners. So these drivers will be managing that. They will be deploying that at whatever setting they think they need to, recovering energy when they can as well. It is an extra layer in this race. So not only are they trying to drive as economically but as fast as possible, and that's an oxymoron, isn't it? But they're also racing each other, and they're trying to manage their system. The easiest thing I can equate this to is the ERS and the KERS system that you see in Formula One. It's a very similar style thing that they're trying to do here in these races as well. So the other two classes, they're kind of going for it. They're managing their strategy of their tires. These drivers in GTP are doing the same, except that they're having to deal with a hybrid system on top of that as well. That's just incredible. A lot to think about here going around in a race like this.
Absolutely. And it's not a simple thing to learn to manage these additional sort of tools. I mean, a lot of drivers, they're used to just handling their fuel. It's an entirely different beast, and a track like this, it doesn't have a lot of turns. There's not a lot of opportunity to recharge that hybrid system. For people who don't know, the way it works is the first part of the brake press is going to be just activating the regenerative braking. And regenerative braking is small electric motors that work kind of in reverse. Looks like we're having double off track there. Looks like that car ahead of him pulling him a little bit off track in the draft. We got cars coming through the corner, managing to avoid that. Great job, but now they're going to settle into a bit of a line, fall into a train, and hopefully continue on this race. The way that works is they're almost like a little electric motor in reverse. So instead of adding power to create thrust, they take the spin of the wheel and basically catch it and put it back into the batteries themselves. Wow, that is some crazy cornering. That GTD car going off track to avoid that absolute train of GTP cars. And good on them to avoid getting hit by them. They are having no holds barred right now. I'll throw it back to you, Jesse.
No, I think that was very lovely, that explanation. The energy recovery system that they have, somewhat complex. It's very complex, the science behind it, but it's everywhere. It's a part of racing. We wondered when Formula One introduced similar systems if it would become more widespread or how quickly it would become widespread. It really wasn't for a long time, but it's become quite popular recently. The GTP cars, of course, the LMP1 hybrid era as well, a similar system, though I believe distinctly different in some aspects as well to the GTP system. I think the GTP system might be simplified, but that could just be a revision on it in general. But the point I'm making is that it's a very elegant solution for more power and less emissions, and the racing, as we've seen already, no less interesting. Carroll, though, going back to the near accident in the carousel, this very corner, that was quite interesting. You saw Carroll following an LMP2 car and was led into danger, almost Hansel and Gretel style, into the forest. It was like he was dropping gumdrops on the track. The LMP2 car was a little bit wide. Carroll and the GTP was following through there. They both got lulled into a false sense of security, and off into the dirt they were.
Absolutely, and it's very easy to end up in the draft behind another car, and you think everything's going really great, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're driving in the dirt. And a little bit of a scary moment as Carroll re-entered the track there in a little bit of a scary sort of way. A lot of cars coming very high speed out of that corner, not able to kind of adjust the direction they're coming in. And thankfully, it was just enough to avoid any sorts of crashes. All right, right now we have Daly right now. Daly is trailing behind, trying to get past a lap car right now. He's getting past that GTD car. That would be, actually didn't catch the number of that one. Right now he's just tucked in the draft right now behind the, oh no, that's the other way around. Right now, he has an LMP2 tucked behind in his draft as he's driving that Porsche, trying to close that gap of 29.2 seconds to Dressel right now. He may be able to do it because Dressel right now is putting up, while a little bit faster than lap, Daly was a little bit slower last lap. Dressel was the first one back into the pits. That was on lap 19. While Daly waited until lap 23 to go in, and if both took tires, you might start to see that sort of drop-off start to kind of appear here. Right now, just another clean pass on a GTD car, which is always, you love to see it. Oh, GT car just kissing a little bit of dirt there, just figuring out what it's like to be a rally racer. Good on him. Hope he decides to stick with the road career, though. I think he's far better on the road than on the dirt. We're coming up here right now in another GTD car. You know, it's just the life of a GTP racer is to kind of weave and be super careful to avoid ending the race. Trying to get around this car. Great clean pass. Both drivers just showing a lot of respect for each other and making sure that they kind of continue the races. That last lap was a 151.477. Right now we are jumping over to Dustaka right now, who is 5 seconds back from P2, just sitting in P3. Probably just happy to be able to sit there and get a podium today if they can keep it up. Their last lap was a 153.645. Car ahead of them is 0.3 slower per lap, so let's see if they can try to close that gap. We have 16 minutes remaining, which means you're looking at about 8 laps, so probably have a chance over that time with only 5 seconds to try to close the gap to the car ahead. Right now, they just passed a Mercedes there. Hope you're all excited. Tomorrow is the RCI GT2 series. That's going to feature the Mercedes, the KTM, the Porsche, and the Maserati. Those cars are absolutely a fun thing to drive. Hope to see you all there. Make sure you can sign up on racerci.com. It is the best place to find all the great racing series, like this one that you're seeing here right now. Another great clean pass by Lindner, avoiding causing troubles. Keep it up out there. I'm going to throw it back to Jesse. How's it going, Jesse?
Well, I was going to say, you've done me out of a job there. Absolutely. The brand new GT2 cars in ACC live in a championship here on RCI. Fridays are back. Go to the website, exactly like what Sarah said. And my only thing to add to that is, if it doesn't go well, if you don't like it, you can blame Kevin Boss, who's in this iRacing race, and Ash Bibby, who's our broadcaster right now. So hopefully that isn't the case, but now you know who to blame. Our newest event managers here. I jest, of course. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll bring you all the racing action from the GT2 Friday Series live here on RCI TV tomorrow. And on that note, if you haven't liked and subscribed already, why not do it? Because we've got more racing coming up. Obviously, the Friday race. We'll be back with you Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week in full swing around here at this time of year. The first day of February. Looking good, the calendar is, for the near future. We got a little bit of everything here, Sarah. AMS2, iRacing, ACC, WRC as well. If for those that like their racing on dirt and snow and tarmac and in tiny little Japanese roads, which is where one of the rallies is. All sorts of things here. All you got to do, join the Discord, join the website, check it out.
With the amount of dirt I've seen Kiss today, you think some of these drivers are getting ready to do that race with WRC.
I was trying to take a drink there, but you ruined that.
I'm so sorry.
That was a hell of a segue. Where are we at? 14 minutes left to go in the race. Chrisek has driven away from this field. Sarah, they have to be considered now, after 2 of these in a row, the #1 contender. The question is there anyone that can do anything about it? They just seem like they're leaps and bounds more comfortable in that Acura than anybody else in that category. It is not an insurmountable lead, 2 races in. It's a long championship after all. but what can the other drivers do to maybe elevate their ability to kind of get closer, make it convincing with Chris Tech in that Acura?
That's going to be an absolute struggle. Our next track that we're coming up to is Virginia International, and that is going to be a course with a lot of room that mistakes can happen and not mistakes that you cause. It's very easy for other drivers to just miss a corner, shoot off, and kill other drivers. And I'm going to be honest, with how dominant Chris Tech has been, I think that's the only way that we even come close to seeing anybody else catch up.
Unlike the LMP2 cars and the GT3s, the GTP cars are new to the series, and I'm seeing yellow flags for Jordan Daly and Billy Octane out there on the field. I hope that's at the same time, I hope they didn't have contact with themselves. Daly was quite close to Leach for P5. Wasn't close enough to cause a yellow with him, but was somewhat close. Then something here happened, just lost it here. Talked about that, not taking tires for the second week in a row. You gain time in pit road by virtue of not sitting there for longer, but this is the part of the race era where you give up that grip.
Absolutely. And it's like I was saying, with every one of these cars, it comes, absolutely. Oh, just a little bit of bumping. It looks like nobody lost control there. As far as I know, we may steal something. Oh, absolutely spun out there. Octane with an absolutely risky move that did not pay off. Sometimes it's that virtue message of patience for drivers. If you aren't willing to show patience, you're going to get spun, and that spin is going to be worth a lot more than the 0.1 second you would have gained diving that corner.
Yeah, it's a late race maneuver. You see a spot, you're trying to take it, but for Billy Octane, too far over to the right there, too far on the curb and on the grass. That is not conducive to good braking. And whoa, it's a big one here for Carroll, who had chased Daly down quite a bit. And that has undone all of that progress. Remember, Daly made the pass on Carroll. Carroll had a little bit of a off track themselves and had gained time on Daly because Daly had their half spin. But now it has all come undone again, and now they basically reset to the way they were. Daly 6 seconds behind Leach. Carroll's 9 seconds. Oh, it's going to be worse. Something else has happened to Carroll now. In fact, it's still happening to the 392.
I think the 392 received some damage in that one. As you can see, they were heading down the straight, and there was some wobbling on the car. It's just absolute. Oh, goodness. What is going on there with Carroll? Oh,
I think the suspension's damaged. I think that's what's going on there.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be a retire. That's
absolutely
unfortunate.
Right. Just as we went to the replay, the car was on the hook, the tow truck hook, and they have towed to the pit lane, and so has Jordan Daly in the 197, I think. It says it's towing, and that car is DNF. So a couple of cars around the top 5, 6th and 7th, have retired from this race. This is Daly moments ago in the carousel. It's looking like, yeah, it's going, it's snapping,
yeah.
The tires.
The entire back, the arrow is gone. That's the end of that race.
Well,
and that's what we're talking about. These cars have to maintain throttle through the corners, and if you don't take tires and you have tire damage, you have no lateral grip, and that's the end of your race right there.
We've gone the whole race without seeing an incident of that magnitude, and I warned you about that, folks, because I know how unforgiving this track is. I've visited many of these walls over the years, and that's kind of what happens usually when you have a crash here. It got a little sideways, overcorrected, backwards into the wall. The entire rear clip of that car completely and utterly destroyed that Porsche, and that car out of the race here. Even more savage is the fact that that happens with less than 10 minutes to go. Let's reassess where we are in the race thus far. Chris Tech has dominated. They dominated qualifying, had a 4/10 gap on second place. They got out in front early. They had an excellent start, did the Acura 222, and left everybody else to fight among themselves. Sindelar emerged as the second place car. Luca Filippi has driven up to third and Dressel into fourth, Ryan Leach into fifth, and that's where they stand there. A couple of late retirements in that class, including Carroll and Daly, leaving only 8 of them on the track. Leap was was the first casualty in that class in turn number 1, but they have continued to pound around and are actually only 36 seconds behind Billy Octane. And watching Peter Roche here, the leader in LMP2. They qualified up there. They have maintained that gap, and they enjoy a 44-45 second gap on Camfrier, who has matriculated to P2 here. Extra in third place, 3.4 seconds. That might prove a gap a little bit too big to overcome this late into the race. All the LMP2s look like they're on their own little island here as of late. Tom Bryant in fourth place. That car has seen some action today, but finds themselves in the top 5. And for Hyla, it will be a story of what might have been. Was inside the top 3, was, I would say, keeping Roche honest a little bit early on, but it just wasn't to be here today. Dozal in the GTD category, similar story, though it is a bit closer in that category, first to second. They do have a 15-second lead. Their Mercedes over Janjic. Mercedes and 2 Porsches, the top 3s. The 2 of the top 3 cars, rather, as Roof in third place. One of the cars that executed a late pit stop amongst them. Mead up in fourth place. I know there was a Mead fan in chat earlier on. Frederick Gutman rounds out the top 5 in that class, but still a fight here. Daniel Merchant, who may have been the first car on pit lane today in any class, right behind Tom Watts for 8th.
Absolutely, and just getting back to what happened to Daly there, we have a little bit more information to share. Looks like that Daly expected a track temp of 30, but the track temps unfortunately reached 39. And unfortunately, between that, they just locked up more and more throughout their stint. The change of temperature destroyed their tires, and that's unfortunate. As well as Tom Carroll had to retire, obviously due to heavy suspension damage. We thank both these competitors, though, for all the hard racing they did today. Unfortunately, much like in real life, where the 1 mile from your home is the most dangerous, the last 10 minutes of a race is always the most dangerous parts, as people try to take those risks just a little bit more, maybe try to get just a little more out of that race, and that's where the mistakes get made.
How is it possible you have so much information? How is that possible? I feel like that's a real stat, right? You talk about having an incident 10 minutes away from home, right? I mean, statistically.
Yeah, it is. 23% of all crashes occur within 1 mile of the home. 49 to 53 occur within 5 miles of your home.
It's official. I'm sacking myself from ever doing math again when you're around. It's just, I can't compete with that. You've got statistics, you've got receipts. I just can't deal with that. By the way, Timo in chat asked, what does the L number mean? Is that the lap they pitted? You are indeed correct. That is the last lap they were on and off of pit road. And you'll notice that most of them were on and off the pit road around the same time. But I mentioned Merchant in 9th place in GTD there, that Audi, lap 16. That is the lowest of any car still running here today. There may have been a GTP that was in pit lane quite early, but they may have since retired. But certainly interesting to see those 2 cars close together here at the end. A lot of the battles have already been decided. The battle for P2 and LMP2, not one of those, as Camfrier has Dijkstra right behind them in these final moments. And action-packed race, kind of calming down a little bit at the end, and this is the last thing you want after a hard-fought race. You've been dealing with traffic, you've got your pit stop, everything's gone right for Camfrier. You've done nothing but come up through the field, and all of a sudden a new challenger emerges in the final moments when you're tired. You just can't catch a break sometimes. These drivers, they know what's at stake here in these final few laps. How many do you reckon we got? 2, maybe 3, depending on when the leader gets there?
Roughly, I would say 3, maybe 4, depending on when the last driver passes over. or the first driver, I should say, passes over the finish line. It should be interesting to see. Right now we're looking at 1:48 from the fastest driver, so looking at 3 minutes and 40 seconds for 2 laps. So yeah, probably about 3 laps remaining.
Camferger left the door open for Dykstra that time. Dykstra obliged and went to the inside. Got a little bit loose there in turn number 5, and that allowed Camferger to go back through, and there's still line of start. The blue car is the 46 P2 car of Camferger. The yellow car is Dykstra. This is for second. This is huge as far as the championship contention or the championship points would be concerned. That is a significant difference between second place and third place points. And of course, if you can finish second, obviously you would want to finish second. Peter Roche is either going slowly, or our timing and scoring is having a meltdown. He had a 35-second lead. It was over 40 earlier on. It is continuing to plummet, and Peter Roche is in the pit lane. He's done the fuel wrong, Sarah.
Oh no, not having that fuel, he's gonna have to splash and dash.
Oh!
It looks like Drake almost went off the track there. We're gonna get a replay on that as soon as we can. Hopefully we can figure out exactly what happened there. In the meantime, the Camphors are heading out on the track, able to get past, but that gain of time they had, that huge gap is over. Here's the replay.
We're gonna see here, this is a pretty big gap here. That's Camferger in front, and just sort of slowed up and threw off Dykstra, I think, and they go off into the dirt. And did I see Camferger into the pit lane? He is P2, and LMP2 is also in pit lane. The top 2 cars in LMP2 have done the fuel calculations wrong. They've both had to come down pit lane for a splash and dash here.
And that gap is closing rapidly. Dykstra is only 4 seconds back now, though that number might be a little bit off. We'll find out when we get some more cars over the thing, but this is an absolutely terrible time to have done your math wrong. It's why it's so important to make sure that you're leaving a little bit of extra fuel, because if you don't, you never know, you might run out of fuel at the worst possible time.
Peter Roche had, Lep's done the fuel wrong. Of course, they were very early on pit lane as well. No, they weren't. They were one of the last fitters on pit lane, was the number 18 Cadillac GTP car. Peter Roche had such a lead, 40-plus seconds, and after Dykstra had their incident in turn 14, that gave Roche enough time to come down, get enough fuel, and leave pit lane before Dykstra got to the end of pit lane themselves, or got down the pit straight, I should say. That has afforded that one mistake by Dykstra going off in the dirt in turn 14, and the recovery that was required to get that car back on the track is the difference in this LMP2 race. Peter Roche has done an additional pit stop and has kept the lead of this race because of one small maneuver. 22 seconds left, the white flag flying. This is the last lap of the race. Chris Tech has taken the white flag, and of course it's the overall leader that dictates the end of the race, not the classes. So we are on the final lap, but what drama here to the last.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and I know these drivers are all thinking exactly the same thing. Right now we have Merchant with only 0.4, trying to see if he can maybe squeeze out an additional position, get a few more points up on that board. It's coming up, though, real close. Let's see if he can manage it.
Very close here. Merchant has been patient with Watts. This has been an interesting battle, cat and mouse style. They've not really gone head-to-head. The tender car, Daniel Merchant, trying to swipe right on a position change here late in this race. These cars will have an additional lap, I'm pretty sure. Is that the leader? Is that Chris Tech behind in the Acura? I think it is. This might be the last lap for them if they don't get by. No, that's a different car. Sorry, they're very yellow. I thought they were the same car. They are not. So guaranteeing that Watts and Merchant will have one additional lap. They're just coming to get the white flag, which in America means one to go. Not that there's a stricken car on the racetrack. There's a different flag for that, of course. But this is the white flag, last lap for these cars. They'll get one more through Tom Watts probably wishes that the leader was behind them right there and would have gotten by them, but that's not the case. One lap of racing here for P8.
Oh, going off into the marbles there, they're going to lose a little bit of speed, and that might be enough for Watts to be able to swipe left on that Tinder car.
Really? We're doing this. We're doing this. We have fun here on RCI Thursdays whenever we do broadcast. We hope that you've had fun as well. Here it is for Chris Tech in the Acura. It is 2 in a row and another impressive win. A win perhaps more impressive than 1 week ago. Some say, hey, if you're that good, do it twice. Chris Tech has done it in the only Acura in the field. 49.5 seconds, the final margin of victory. Sindelar will come across in P2. Luca Filippi in third. Dressel and Leach, your top 5 in the GTP category. Peter Roche will come across to win in LMP2. And what a race it was. One that saw Roche need a splash of fuel or something, and because of a mistake, a small mistake, was able to keep the lead. I'm sure they were surprised as well, or maybe they knew actually that they had just enough time in hand. One way or another, Roche your winner there. Dozal will win again in GTD in a brilliant display. What an excellently managed race by most, if not all, of our top competitors. It will be a frustrating day for Hyla, though. They have got back to 4th in LMP2, of course. But it will be a frustrating day nonetheless, because they came in the championship leader, the winner at Daytona, and now they will likely not be the championship leader going into next week.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how it starts to shake up after 3 or 4 more races, but until then, we won't really have any idea who that leader, the true ahead leader is, with the exception of Chris Tech at this point. There's a chance for everybody to still push and win this. Remember, I believe everybody gets 1 drop round. I'm not sure, actually, for iRacing. Somebody will have to correct me on that.
Let's see. Do they have a drop round? They do not have a drop round in this championship, at least that I can see. The finishers coming across the line. The results of GTD, Dozal winning it in the Mercedes. They've gone 2 for 2 as well. A well-managed gap to Janjic, who was in the John Dalton zone in this race in that 24 Porsche. Roof in 3rd place. Going to be Mead in 4th, and Frederick Gutman in the BMW, rounding out the top 5. And Tom Watts and Merchant appear to be tied on this list, but that's only because they're probably that was would that have been frozen at the line, I wonder? Were they really that neck and neck? I don't know. But either way, it has ended here. 80 minutes of racing at Road America. It was a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of traffic management, and some fuel issues there at the end, Sarah.
Absolutely, though we do have a report from chat saying that GTP should not have had an issue with fuel, but sometimes drivers will try to take a little bit less in an attempt to get maybe just that little bit up over their competitors. At the end of the day, these drivers all drove hard, and regardless of accidents, fuel issues, they all really lived up to themselves today. Congratulations to everybody today who made it over the finish line.
Of course, results pending any post-race penalties by the stewarding team. We'll bring any news of that if we need to next week. But for right now, an interview with one of the finishers today, P2 in LMP2. What a wild last couple of laps it was for Justin Dijkstra. Welcome in. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, thank you. I think I was the only one together with the Hyla. We did a 23-lap stint, so a lot of fuel saving. So yeah, in the end, like, are people gonna do a splash or not? Like, we didn't know, but we knew like final stint we can go as fast as we can, no fuel saving necessary. And yeah, I caught up to, I think, Christian it was. And then the gap increased because of traffic. I was so unlucky. I think I used up all my luck of traffic during the Daytona 24, because it was insane. I kept catching cars in the kink and in like place I couldn't overtake. Finally got to him, and yeah, it was yeah, how do you say that? Very difficult to overtake him. I almost got it done, but then my left front locked. I don't know if you guys caught that in the live stream.
Oh boy, did we.
Yeah, it was very exciting. And then yeah, he did go in the pits after all, so the fighting wasn't really necessary. And I think P1 only finished 4 seconds ahead of me. Well, an entire lap because I got led by the leader. So maybe with all those, yeah, times being held up and the fighting I did with Christian, a P1 could have been the result. But nevertheless, I'm very happy with a P2.
Well, I'm going to flash you back to Daytona, Justin, because it wasn't quite the round that you wanted to open the championship with. It wasn't as auspicious as you would have liked, but you have righted all those wrongs. You got Maciej Hyla, who didn't finish particularly well, who won round number 1. Now you finished P2. You've suddenly, 2 races in, you've put your name right back in the hat for this championship. You've made it known that you're going to fight for this, right? So how do you feel now after 2 races into this season, now back in this championship?
It's going to be very competitive. There are a few tracks that I don't know, including this one. So, and it's really tricky because you don't have to learn the track once, you have to learn it twice. Once at full race speed and once on like massive fuel saving mode. So it's very difficult. But yeah, I'm happy that there are a few drivers that are our pace. So yeah, we can really fight, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
What's it like in the middle class? You've got cars slower than you, faster than you. You're out there. You were in it today, racing with cars inside the top 5 in your own class. How chaotic is it here at some of these American tracks?
Yeah, it's because I do so much fuel saving. The GTPs don't expect you to like lift off so early, so I got almost rammed in the back like a few times. And the GT3 cars, like they also don't expect it. Like I'm right beside them, and then I fuel lift, so we go together into the corner while they expect me to be like far ahead. So it was a bit tricky, and sometimes the GTPs are very aggressive. Like wow, they will just send it like into turn 2, like from T1 to T2. There's not a lot of room, so not enough place to go alongside, and they just send it anyway. So almost got my race ended there, but managed to avoid it. Yeah, it's very tricky, but also very fun.
I could tell. I mean, especially with late passes like that, late drama. I just got to say, thanks for coming to talk to us. I'm going to turn you over to my partner here who may have a question to ask.
Absolutely. And, we have to agree with you on that one. We watched the race from up here and we saw a lot of GTPs taking liberties with not just GTDs, but also LMP2s. You were not alone today in feeling that they were sending it on corners, maybe where they shouldn't have. A few people's races ended sometimes through their own power because of that.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it is what it is. And if they don't have the judgment, for example, in the kink, like you can't really overtake because we can't take a wider line and go full throttle as an LMP2. So yeah, if they send it anyway, then it's my responsibility to just avoid them. Otherwise, it's my race over. So yeah.
Exactly. And I guess the hot news right now, blowing up the internet, is Lewis Hamilton signing with Scuderia Ferrari. What's your take on that?
I didn't see it coming at all, to be honest. I opened the news first thing in the morning. Andretti is not, in 2025, 2026, they cannot, join the championship. And then a few hours later, Lewis Hamilton joins Ferrari. It's a lot in a very short time. It's a shame that Andretti can't join, of course, and Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. Yeah, wow. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. Let's put it like that.
We actually did get an update officially from Scuderia Ferrari's official Twitter account that they have announced that he'll be joining the team in 2025 on a multi-year contract.
That is
no way. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it. I'll put it in the chat of RCI, and hopefully I don't get banned by the bot.
You won't. Folks, we not only bring you racing here on RCI TV, we bring you cutting edge, up to the minute news and information. Justin, anybody you want to shout out before we go?
Yeah, of course, Hyla. It's my teammate. We did a preparation together, like experimented with fuel saving and did a lot of math to guess the right strategy, and it did pay off for both of us. If he didn't have his accidents, he would have been P1 easily. So yeah, next round we're trying to get that 1-2.
Hopefully you can do that. Justin, thanks for coming and talking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, P2 in the LMP2 class today with the most insane drama I've seen at the conclusion of one of these things. It's Justin Deistrich. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Well, we've had a little bit of everything, multi-class racing, incidents, retirements, drama, fuel saving, Lewis Hamilton driving a red car, a little bit of everything here today, but it's that time that we thank our partners and say goodnight to all of you, and a big thanks to those that subscribe, like, and comment. We see you, we appreciate you, and more than anything, we appreciate you joining us on this journey. We'll be back next Thursday for round number 3. We're going to be at VIR up my neck of the woods, Virginia International Raceway. And we'll see what that track has to play into. A lot of long straights with some incredibly tight confines. We've talked a lot today about the small confines of Road America, but VIR makes this look like a 6-lane interstate. We'll see what the multi-class has in store for us in Virginia. But once again, thanks to the partners, AKE Sports, Driver 61, digitalmotorsport.com, Fanatec, and of course, Go Setups for all of their support and help. Thank you for iRacing as well for helping us set up initially and put on some of these events. And of course, more racing this week here on the channel, RCI TV. On Friday, the very first ACC GT2 Series race. You're going to want to not miss that. We'll be live back here. Same bat time, same bat play. Sarah, you got anything for him before we send off tonight?
Have a great night, everyone, and I'll see you all again. I believe we're on Laguna Seca. I won't be here for the next 2 races. You'll have to have a lovely voice of another person riding shotgun here with Jesse and Ash. I'll see you all when I get back.
Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Safe travels, Sarah. In the meantime, once again, thank you all for joining us. This has been iRacing IMSA round number 2 at Road America. We'll see you at VIR next week. And until then, have a good night.